Okay, so our next presentation is Modeling Patterns Salesforce. And so welcome, Lyndsey. So Lyndsey Weber is our Senior Solutions Consultant, and we're going to be looking at reading and writing back to Salesforce. So let me hand things over to you, Lyndsey.
Great. Thank you, Brendan. Yeah, so excited about that new UX. Hopefully you all are as well. I've gotten to play with it just a little bit and it is so cool. So we're really eager to get your feedback. Hopefully you can see my screen. So we're going to talk about Salesforce today. And Brad alluded to this. We've actually had connectivity from an importing or even a data link perspective to Salesforce for a little bit of time. But this write back functionality is very, very new. So I've got just one slide here to kind of preview for us what we're going to look at, and then we'll dive straight into the demo here. So we will show importing data from Salesforce into Quantrix. I'll show you how we can edit opportunity details within those records, and as Brad alluded to, track changes that maybe we want to make to those opportunities right inside Quantrix. We'll write back some of those updates to Salesforce, and then we'll get into just a little bit of kind of classic Quantrix, right? Now that we can bring that information from Salesforce into a model, we can start modeling on top of it, right? And put in things like scenarios and do a lot of the really cool stuff. So really excited to show this to you. As a note too, you can kind of see this in the bottom right corner of the slide. If you're interested in this functionality, make sure that you update Quantrix to the latest version, particularly if you want to use the write back to Salesforce and something that I will show you, this primary key alias option. So without further ado, let me jump here into Quantrix and show you a little bit of how this works. So I'm going to bake a little bit of the cake for us here, and then we'll switch into a completed Quantrix model and do a little bit more fun stuff here. But let me show you how we connect to Salesforce from the beginning here. So classic start here, we'll use data import to do this with Quantrix. I'm going to come down to Salesforce here. I've actually already configured my connection to Salesforce for the sake of the demo here. We've got some great documentation in the online help about how to configure this. If you have any particular questions, though, as we go through this demo, feel free to drop those into the chat and we can help you out. We actually support Salesforce's higher performance APIs now, and also allow for connectivity to Salesforce via single sign-on. So this is really great, and that's partially why this is so easy for me to connect to. So you'll see, we'll maybe just mention this briefly here, but we have the ability for you to import data from Salesforce tables, but also Salesforce reports. So I don't know how many of you have used Salesforce in the past, or if your company creates unique reports from Salesforce. I know we do here at Quantrix, and so this is a really great benefit if you want to load in data from any custom reports that your team has made as well. So for the sake of this demo, I'm actually going to pull in some data from a table in Salesforce called the Opportunity Line Item Table. I'll go ahead and click Get Fields here, and you can see that those pieces of information or the data that's available to me, of course, comes in here on the left. And I'm going to start just dropping in some of these things. We'll talk about this line item ID further, but I definitely am going to want this in here. I'm going to bring in my quantity. This is going to be my subscriptions or my seats. I'm going to bring in the sales price, the total price, and then I'm going to bring in a couple other things as well. And I'm going to use the quick find actually to bring these pieces of information in. So let's load in the product name. Let's bring in the name of the opportunities that we're looking at in here. And then I'm going to also bring in the name of the accounts or the prospects. And then I'm actually going to do some filtering here. I'm using a demo environment. So we're going to put in a couple of filters here so that I'm only bringing in the opportunities that Brad has assigned to him or that I have assigned to me. And we'll just update this filter logic to be either one of us. And I'll go ahead and click refresh here. You'll see that we've got our data loading in. And so I'm going to just press OK here. All right, so we are now connected to our Salesforce table here. I'll just drop in all the rows here quickly so that you can see we're pulling in some of our information here with our prospective customers and some of the details that they are hopefully going to purchase from us. And actually, what I'm going to do here now is build out a little bit of a grouped category. I think we showed this maybe last year at the conference. This was a pretty new feature that I did not realize existed. It's been around for a while, but you have the ability to group items upon import based on the structure of the data set that you're pulling in from. So I'm actually going to take this line item ID and bring this down to generate a category. And of course, what you will notice here is this is not super lovely looking. This is a primary key that Salesforce generates, but we're going to use this because this is kind of the secret ingredient that we need in order to accomplish our write back. So I'm going to bring this in, and this will make a little bit more sense as we move along here. So next up, I'm going to group these line item IDs, just drag and drop the opportunity name on top of those. So you can see each of these different opportunities that we have from this table are in here grouped by the products that we're quoting the prospect. Then I think I'll go ahead and bring in the account name on top of that so we get some really good context here. So Taco the Town is one of our customers. We have an initial deal with them for New York, and they're buying a couple things in here. So then finally, I'll just double click in here, bring in the quantities that they're going to purchase, the unit prices for each of those, and then the total price or the total opportunity size. So we've got a good looking table here, except for, these line item IDs, they're important clearly because we need them to do the write back, but they don't provide a lot of context for what it is in Salesforce that we're actually looking at right now. So let me introduce to you the primary key alias, which is a new feature in Quantrix, and it's really cool here. So I can actually right click on that line item ID category down at the bottom here. And under data import, there's an option here to configure this dimension. And if I click down, there's an opportunity here to set a primary key label. And this is exactly what we want to do. So in lieu of displaying this kind of long character string for the line item ID, I can actually specify a different field, almost like an item descriptor, to reflect instead. And so in this case, I'm going to pick product name and press OK here. And here we are. Now this table is starting to make a whole lot more sense. We can now see what each of our potential customers are going to be purchasing. The seats now make sense, the quantity, the prices, all of this now looks really great from a Salesforce opportunity perspective here. So the final bit of setup that we need to do to use this matrix with Salesforce data in is open our configuring options here. And because we want to write back to Salesforce, we're going to want to click this allow editing of imported cells checkbox, which this has been around for a while. If you've been using data import, you know this, but you might have not noticed that there's a new option here that's called mark changed cell values. So if we allow a user to make edits to the cell values we have in this matrix, Quantrix can now show you which cells a user has changed manually. So I'm going to keep this checked because I'm going to show you how this works here in just a minute. So let's go ahead and click OK here. So you'll notice a few things. I'll call this out. There's a light blue arrow now pushing out of this data import matrix. This is indicating that this is a Salesforce write back capable matrix. So we're importing the data from Salesforce, and now we have the option to send that back into that system. So we did enable tracking of those changes or marking those changes. So let me show you how that works. I may come into this Taco the Town opportunity, and let's say that we did a great job of upselling, and now this customer wants to purchase maybe 20 seats instead. So I'll type in 20 and press enter, and hopefully you can see on your screen, there's kind of this light pink outline around the edge of this box. So this is that marking changes functionality that we've introduced for data import. So anytime a user is coming in and manipulating the values or changing the cell values here in a data import matrix, we can actually highlight that visibly for the end user. You may have also noticed on kind of the bottom right corner of this Salesforce data import matrix that there's a couple new buttons here. And these are really cool. I know I've spoken with a handful of the customers, I think some of you even on the call today, about how it sometimes can be hard to figure out what's changed in the data import matrix or what you have changed. So this is a really cool feature for Salesforce. If I click on the eyeball icon here, you'll notice that Quantrix will automatically filter this matrix to show me only the records where a cell value has been changed and not yet written back into Salesforce. So I can easily toggle this on or off. If I have multiple lines where I've made these adjustments, Quantrix will just show me those individual records or those individual lines, which is extremely useful and very, very powerful. So let's say that we're now ready to just write this example back. So we've bumped up the quantity here from 15 to 20, and we're selling them, of course, modular subscriptions here. And so let's go ahead and click our button down here to synchronize the changes with Salesforce. And so when I click this, Quantrix will say, hey, you're about to update one record, which is true, in this table, and we can't undo this. Do you want to proceed? And of course we do. So Quantrix is going to run this. We're going to push that new quantity back into Salesforce, and then Quantrix is going to refresh this table, as hopefully you've seen here in this table above. Now, if you're looking really closely, you will notice that our quantity did in fact update to 20 seats, but what Salesforce has done is actually reduced the unit price of the modular seats to keep our total price here as 24,500. And this is probably not actually what we're trying to accomplish. We've just sold them additional seats. We're not, unfortunately, selling Taco the Town more seats at a lower price. We're not giving them that discount. So we do have one more step to do here to make sure that we're reflecting the change that we want. And so in this case, I'm actually going to do one more changed cell here, and I'm going to change this sale price back to that 2,450 per modular seat opportunity here. And then I will synchronize one more time. We'll click yes here. Quantrix is going to send that back. Salesforce is going to accept it. And then you can see here that now we've got the 20 seats at the 2,450 price per unit, totaling to that 49,000 for the total price of those seats. So this is a quick example of how this write back works, kind of the behind the scenes view, if you will. But let's switch now and show how this might work in a completed model with some canvases. So very similar view here, but I've switched now to a model, and I'm playing the role here of one of our account managers. And so I have pulled up a canvas perspective here that's showing me only my opportunities. So I think Ben Wake is going to talk about this a little bit later with advanced filtering. There's a little bit of advanced filtering going on this page so that when I log into this model, I'm only seeing the customers or the prospects that I own within this table. So you can see I've got a handful of these customers here, and I have the ability straight from the canvas to, let's say, we've progressed quite well with this Viet Bun customer. We've moved them up to a new stage. And in fact, maybe we have really good news and we think that we're going to sell them this deal maybe a week sooner. So again, you can see that these marked changes have been updated here as well. You may also see, so Brad mentioned this in his discussion, in his talk previously too, that there's Boolean checkboxes. So I may also decide that I want to click on a couple of these opportunities and just filter and see, well, what are the pieces or the components that we're selling to these customers? So that drill down checkbox is displaying and filtering kind of a detailed view of this table beneath, so we can see exactly what this customer is looking to purchase. And then by a similar token, we could come down here and let's say for our foreign policy deal, maybe we want to up this modular subscription seat to, I don't know, let's say 30. And now you can see we've got all of these changes that we want to push up into Salesforce. So again, I've got a nifty button up here to synchronize all of this. I can press synchronize all. Quantrix is going to push that data back up into Salesforce, bring those changes back in so that I can see them here. We'll give it just another moment to refresh. And again, you can see that that's been updated. Again, we have the same thing down here that we want to double check since we upped the quantity. We probably want to ensure that the sales price is what we said. Maybe we're still not ready to give this customer that level of a discount. So I can write that again to be my unit price, synchronize all one more time. And we'll see that change reflected not only down here in the detailed drill down, but you'll see this total amount for foreign policy update as well. So there we go. We've got those changes. So this is a really cool opportunity for certainly our team. I know internally to Quantrix, our sales team uses Salesforce, and we're really excited about the opportunity to control and to track our opportunities here from a Quantrix model, but also make these changes and adjustments over time without having to open up Salesforce and go to the very specific detailed view that we need to make these changes. This is a really cool opportunity. So one more thing though, so I've been working here as the account manager, but clearly for a team, this becomes even more useful. So let me switch here to the sales manager role and log in here. So now I'm logged in as the sales manager. I can see all of my team's opportunities. So not just Lyndsey's customers, but our entire team here. I've got the same level of detail where I can drill down. I could make changes to any of the opportunities that my team is currently working on, but I've got a nice view here of what everybody is doing and how things are going. Of course, this is where I think the beauty of Quantrix comes in is now that we have that Salesforce data feeding in here for the potential deals that we're closing, the revenue that's associated with those deals, I can now put Quantrix to work at what it does best, which is forecasting out now for our business. What do those deals in the pipeline mean for the sake of our business's performance by the end of the year? What should we expect from a new bookings perspective? How much recurring revenue do we think we're going to achieve by the end of the year? So if you're not familiar, this is a pretty common practice among revenue operations teams and SaaS companies to be able to track not only your deals, but also the recurring revenue and the timing of those deals over time against your target. So we've got a little team status matrix here that, of course, is showing us so far what are our actuals that we've attained versus the forecast that we have for the year, and even against the target revenue and bookings that we believe we should have by the end of the year. Same Salesforce data here. This is kind of another interesting way of being able to pull in all of those different deals that are in the pipeline from Salesforce and maybe look at those filtered by the top 5 opportunities that we're considering. Let's track the status of those and make sure that we're on target to close those and get some really happy customers. So in typical Quantrix fashion, of course, what I would want to do as a sales manager is look at this and say, okay, well, we're forecasted here with a target of $3.4 million. Right now, our new bookings to date, you can see in my year-to-date sale down here is 2.7. So right now we're not on track to meet our target for the year. So why don't we spin up a scenario and see what might need to change in order for us to make that goal, make that target of 3.4 down here. So you can see I've got just a simple table, of course, classic Quantrix case here. I've got some expected cases where I've got an average deal size of, let's say, 30 grand. I've even pulled in some marketing metrics to say how many leads are we pulling in, how many of those people that we speak to turn into customers. So I can simply, of course, as everyone knows here that's a Quantrix user, just press enter on the keyboard. And let's say that we have an aggressive growth for the remainder of the year. So I'm challenging my team to bump up that average deal size and see if we can ramp for the remainder of the year to get our new bookings closer in line to our target. So maybe in this case, I'll just copy my values over here. And let's see if we change this to 40,000, how close we're going to get. So I'll switch this scenario up here to my aggressive. And of course, what we've seen here is pressing enter, we generate a new scenario here. I can see that if we can tackle or achieve an average deal size of about 10K higher than what we've been getting so far, we're going to end up really close to what our target is. In fact, maybe we'll even slightly exceed it by the end of the year. So very simple example here again of how we can take those actuals from Salesforce, we can refresh in real time, we can keep track of how those deals are evolving as we move through the process with the customer, and then use this information to actually forecast any potential changes or adjustments that our team needs to make going forward through the remainder of the year. So there's a lot of potential for how I know our customers are going to continue to use Salesforce. I've spoken to a lot of our customers that have had a desire for quite some time to give their sales teams the ability to work with Quantrix data and also make their lives easier, because oftentimes working in Salesforce requires lots of steps in order to accomplish what you need to do or consider alternatives. And so Quantrix is really unlocking a lot of efficiency in how we manage that process among teams, and even joining teams together again from maybe a finance and a sales perspective, from a revenue operations standpoint, getting a clear view of our business over time and using that Salesforce information to do that work. Maybe one final thing that I'll show you in case you're curious about the buttons here on this page. So our update all, of course, is really just a smart button. Hopefully, if you were around last year, you know that we introduced new smart buttons here to add to your canvases. So an update all here is going to refresh all of the data import matrices that you have here in your model. This synchronize all is a custom script that we've written, but I'll just pop this open in case you're curious. That the method that we're using here to do that right back to Salesforce is called synchronize Salesforce data. So you can see that I've got that tied to a couple different tables or a couple different matrices here. It's our kind of rolled up version here, and then that detailed drill down below. And we're using that synchronize Salesforce data scripting option here. So very easy to use, very simple to throw this onto a canvas and give those different users the ability to make those changes and modify things. So